There's a lot of sacrifices. There's emotional sacrifices, and there's physical.
I was once a professional ballerina. Feels like another life ago, but once a ballerina, hence the name of our farm, which is Ballerina Farm.
But I moved to New York City when I was 17. I was a professional dancer. I attended the Juilliard School for dance. I always thought that that's what I would be forever. And I always wanted a family, but I imagined myself living in the city. We got married, we had our first baby, and I remember one day we were on the subway. Daniel looked at me and he's like, I don't want this for our life. I don't want this for our kids. I think I probably would have stayed, but my husband's heart wasn't in it.
Hello everyone, I'm Ezra Draven, and I'm sure you are all familiar with the subject of today's deep dive, Ballerina Farms. Ballerina Farms is an LLC run by Hannah and Daniel Nealman, a picture-perfect Mormon couple with 8 children, a 300-acre livestock farm in the mountains of Utah, a love for God, and a following of over 10 million people on Instagram and TikTok, as well as 2 million followers here on YouTube. Hannah is the perfect Mormon ballerina Barbie. Say that 10 times fast. She's literally a ballerina, the peak of beautiful feminine athlete. She has competed in many pageants, including winning Miss Utah, Miss American, and competing in Miss World. She's had 8 beautiful blonde children. She's a full-time stay-at-home farm mom, farm worker, and content creator, being the breadwinner both figuratively and literally with the fame of her sourdough bread recipes. All of this while never forgetting to attend to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church, every Sunday. This video is going to be a deep dive on Hannah and her upbringing, her relationship with her husband, the Ballerina Farms company that they started, and what is most interesting to me, her Mormon faith, and her immense missionary power for the church and the embodiment of the church's ideals while still being able to present in a way that is welcoming and modern. If you like this video, please subscribe. I am a newer channel, and every single new subscriber I get really means the world to me. I hate long intros, so let's just get into it. In order to understand Ballerina Farms, we must do a quick introduction of the Mormon Church, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as is their technical name, as that will be a central focus to the video. So, the Mormon, or LDS for short, church, was started in the 1820s and 30s by a man named Joseph Smith. The tale is best recounted in the South Park episode All About Mormons.
Afraid it was the Mormons. Yes, the Mormons were the correct answer.
Yes, they are so weird. They have an entire South Park episode, just like Scientology. It is a religion focused on Joseph Smith's claims to have been called by God to restore the church.
Joseph Smith was called a prophet. Dum 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 dum.
Joseph, I told my wife that you spoke with God and she didn't believe it.
Well, it's true, I did.
Where?
I was asking God if I should be a Protestant or a Catholic or what, and suddenly God and Jesus appeared before me. And they said I should start my own church.
And is claimed to have found a lost part of the Bible, which recounts a scientifically inaccurate tale of Jesus here in America. And in an incredibly brief summary of a topic that will get its own multi-hour video, I promise you. They are known for previously practicing polygamy, migrating to and founding the state of Utah, where they are the majority religion in that state to this day, and having large families of blonde children who are perfectly obedient and wholesome. Things you may know about Mormonism is they have church-mandated underwear called garments that force them to dress modestly, and their incredibly strict purity culture. The religion used to be very racist. If you were not white, you were not allowed into heaven, according to them. You could not go to the temple. And that wasn't changed until the 70s. And to this day, they're very against the gays. Let's do an overview of Hannah. Hannah Nealman was born Hannah Wright on June 25th of 1990, making her 35 years old as of this video. She was born and raised just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, in a town called Springville. And I'm setting the scene here, as Springville is in Utah County, and Utah County is the most Mormon concentration by county in all of Utah, where 72% of the population is Mormon. And the county also holds BYU Provo, which is the Mormon college. She was one of 9 children, and again, was raised in a Mormon household. And we are all shocked by these figures, I know. Hannah and all of her siblings were homeschooled, and her parents ran a florist store. So it all seems like a very wholesome, normal childhood in Utah. Hannah began ballet at 9 years old, saying that as she has 7 brothers, her mom wanted to give her a more feminine hobby. When she was 11, she remembers a dance teacher telling her mom that she was on track to get into Juilliard, and Hannah says that night she put a sign on her door saying, "Juilliard, here I come." And she trained furiously to get there, and at the age of 14, she was accepted into Juilliard's summer program. She went again at 15, and at 16, she actually got a full-ride scholarship to Brigham Young University to do ballet there, and she did begin her degree there. She was then accepted into Juilliard, and as I've never done ballet, I didn't really understand the significance of that until I learned that Juilliard only takes 12 ballet dancers a year. So that would make it the most prestigious school for the arts in all of America, at least. Hannah was not just a good ballerina, she was an amazing ballerina. On top of being a perfect Mormon Juilliard ballerina, she became a pageant queen as a way to pay for her tuition. She did it successfully, too. She won Miss Springville when she was 17 and left for Juilliard. She then competed in Miss Utah at 18 and got second runner-up in that, as well as in Miss National Sweetheart, and then she competed in Miss New York, and she won Miss New York. She took the pageants as an opportunity to spread her Mormon faith, where she was the only contestant in Miss New York to wear a one-piece during the bikini competition and was vocal both on and off stage about her beliefs as a Latter-day Saint and her testimony of the Book of Mormon. Yes, she is literally Mormon Barbie preaching the gospel in a ball gown. We will now discuss her husband, who is very central to her story, and his name is Daniel Nealman. Daniel Nealman was born in Utah on October 9th of 1989 to David Gary Nealman and Vicki Vrains. I do not typically bring up people's parents when I am researching them. I don't think it's relevant to most adults' stories who their mom and dad are. However, Daniel is a special case because his father is rich and famous. So David Nealman, very, very successful businessman. He was born in Brazil and then migrated to the United States when he was 5, but he frequently goes between the two. He started 5 airlines: Morris Air, WestJet, JetBlue Airways, Azul Brilliant Airways, and Breeze Airways. And he's estimated to have a net worth of $400 million. David's name pops up every time you Google richest or most famous Mormons. Yes, Daniel's dad is a Mormon and a returned missionary, meaning at 19 he left to go get new members for the Mormon church for 2 years. Now Daniel is the only son out of 8 siblings, so he would be the automatic heir to the entire $400 million fortune, or at least a chunk of it. Now it's unclear to me how much money Daniel's dad gives him. Could be 0, but I suspect not. I think that Daniel is a trust fund baby with at least a modest allowance. But again, that is just speculation. I have no proof. Alright, enough about how rich Daniel's dad is at this time. I promise it will come up again. So both of Daniel's parents were Mormon, and Daniel was born in Utah, but he grew up in a place called New Canaan, Connecticut. Don't know if I'm saying that right. After a family move. Daniel also became super Mormon. Shocker! He went on a mission to Brazil, just like his father. He got his bachelor's degree in history from BYU and his MBA from the University of Utah. So I want to get into how these two lovebirds met. Hannah and Daniel met when Hannah was 21 and Daniel was 23. They were introduced by a mutual friend at a BYU basketball game on Thanksgiving break. From the Times article that, we will get to, do not worry, Daniel says, "I saw her and I was ready to go." He says, "Sign me up," I was thinking. "Let's get married." But she wouldn't go on a date with me for 6 months, end quote. And they didn't date, since Hannah was busy with the small little task of dancing at Juilliard in New York City. It was not until summer break that Hannah says she went on a flight at JFK and met a family from New Canaan, Utah, who knew Daniel. And when she asked about him, they said that he was, and I quote, "not the one you want to get away, dear." Hannah took this as a sign from God and called Daniel, and they began talking. See, I kind of think Hannah took that as a sign of oh, he's rich, and they told her that, and then they started talking. But I also have no evidence of that. That's just what it would take me to randomly call someone after 6 months, is someone telling me that their dad is rich. That'd work on me, no shame. According to the Times article, quote, one day she mentioned to Daniel that she was getting on a 5-hour flight from Salt Lake City to New York, back to Juilliard. She didn't realize his dad owned the airline. So Daniel said, I'm on that same flight. Hannah says she remembers checking in and them saying, you're 5A and you're 5B, meaning Daniel. And she says she just thought, no way, that's crazy. And then Daniel says, I made a call. He had pulled strings at JetBlue. End quote. And that was their first date. In true Mormon fashion, they had an incredibly fast dating period, which was largely due to Daniel's insistence. Again, in the Times article, quote, back then I thought we should date for a year before marriage, Hannah says, so I could finish school and whatever. And Daniel was like, it's not going to work. We've got to get married now, end quote. And after a month, they were engaged. Just 2 months after that, in 2011, they were married, in what I'm assuming was a Mormon temple wedding, which looks something like this. If you're currently LDS, look away. I am revealing secrets of the temple.
In the Mormon temple marriage, the partners are sealed to each other for time and all eternity in Mason-like rituals. And without this ceremony, no one can enter the presence of Joseph Smith and become a god.
Pay, lay, air.
Jump scare, am I right? Isn't that something? Let me know if you want a video on that situation. I would love to do one. Hannah doesn't want to get married. She wants to finish school. Most likely because in Mormonism, women are flat out told that birth control is a no-go. If you don't believe me, here's a clip of a Mormon leader talking about this.
And not be taken in by all the misinformation which is abroad in the land today about birth control and abortion and sex education, other Satan-inspired philosophies.
We hear so much about emancipation, independence, sexual liberation, birth control, abortion, and other insidious propaganda belittling the role of motherhood, all of which is Satan's way of destroying the woman, the home and the family, the basic unit of society.
And as devout Mormons, if they were to be married, you automatically put how many children you will have into the hands of God. So Hannah most likely knew that if she were to be married, she would get pregnant, and that could affect whether or not she graduated from Juilliard, her life's dream. She could have also just wanted to move slow and focus on her school and not the Mormon mom dream. Of course, she didn't get what she wanted, because her religion states the exact opposite. And this is a quote from the Mormon magazine Ensign. It is your responsibility and opportunity under the natural process of dating and courting to find a wonderful companion and marry in the house of the Lord. Don't rush it unduly and don't delay it unduly. Marry in haste and repent at leisure is an old proverb that still has meaning in our time. But do not dally along in fruitless, frustrating, and frivolous dating game that only raises hope and brings disappointment and in some cases heartache. That was Two Single Adults, Ensign, June 1989. In their early marriage, they moved into a 2-bedroom apartment that Daniel rented on the Upper West Side. The fact that Daniel could afford a 2-bedroom apartment in the Upper West Side alone as a recent history graduate says a lot about the possibility that his dad is helping him out. 3 months after being married, big shocker, she's pregnant, and she becomes the first Juilliard undergraduate to get pregnant in modern history. Hannah says that when she became pregnant and a mom, she realized that she would no longer be able to follow her dreams of being a professional dancer, and she gave it up. She walked across the graduation stage with a baby that was just a few weeks old. I want to talk about this decision as I think it's one that so clearly shows the Mormon emphasis on no other life bringing more joy than being a mother and having children.
As we enumerate the many important responsibilities a woman has in connection with her duties as a wife, a mother, a homemaker, a sister, a sweetheart, or as a good neighbor, it should be evident that these challenging responsibilities can satisfy her needs to express her talents, her interests, her creativity, dedication, energy, and skill, which so many seek to satisfy outside the home.
Despite being raised very Mormon, Hannah did not dream solely of her future husband and motherhood. She dreamed of being a professional ballerina in New York City, and she worked intensely hard to get there. Whereas most homeschool moms would just begin looking for their future spouse at 16, 17, or 18, she was looking for Juilliard. I have not heard her talk about even trying to date anyone before Daniel, and then as soon as she meets a Mormon boy, she's married, pregnant, and giving up professional dancing and her career in a city she loved and saw her life in, for a career as a part-time dance teacher and mother in the middle of nowhere. I think this is because in the Mormon church, they've emphasized that nothing, no fulfilling career, no dream, will make you more happy than being a wife and a mother. So if you want to be in Heavenly Father's, as they and Hannah calls it, good graces, you have to trust him and the prophets at your church who are the direct mouthpiece of God on earth, who say that you as a woman have to give that up. Daniel, I'm sure, had no problem with this arrangement, as he gave nothing up, not his body, not his mind, not his dreams, and he says he had always wanted the Mormon dream of a hot wife and a band full of children to be fulfilled. Rant over. I promise there will be more to come. Immediately after Hannah and Daniel graduate their respective programs, they moved to Sao Paulo, Brazil, so that Daniel could work at a tech startup, and they lived there for 4 years, having 3 more children. Hannah's earliest posts on Instagram are in December of 2015, and she begins posting her life with her 2 sons in Brazil. We see some of them touring farms, but not much. There's nothing aesthetic, it's just normal. There's no pioneer dresses, no perfectly matching workout sets. The kids can be seen at Disney World, and in an I Heart New York polyester t-shirt. I found one photo of Hannah and Daniel holding margaritas from this time period, with the caption, "We had one too many," which is so interesting, because Mormons are strictly prohibited to drink alcohol. You can watch my video on that, it's called Mormons Will Drink Anything But Coffee, but I personally am all here for breaking those stupid old rules. Yet it is so interesting seeing how Mormon they are, and how this photo exists. It is in Brazil that Hannah says they found their love of agriculture. Instead of going to the beach on their days off, they would drive to rural areas and look at farms with locals. One day, they went to a hog farm. Not the industrial kind you might be thinking of, where it's overcrowded and the pigs are just sitting in mud and poop all day, but a nice hog farm, where they are rotationally pasture-raised so the grass is always fresh and the ground beneath them is always clean. And upon seeing this, Daniel immediately fell in love with the idea of being a hog farmer. They both began to dream of the homesteading life, and while it seems like this was majorly pushed by Daniel, I really don't doubt that Hannah actually did want this lifestyle too. This life is no joke, and it's work that unless you are really into it, you will look and be miserable 24/7. And Hannah seems to be into raising farm animals, albeit not hogs so much as goats and cows, and she seems to genuinely be into cooking and growing her own food. She says that they eventually switched from their apartment to a home with 2 acres in Brazil, and got goats and chickens to begin testing out this lifestyle. It is in 2016 that Hannah's Instagram gets a little more aesthetic. There's pictures of the kids with a small herb garden, and filters on their aesthetic Brazilian-style house with a large and proud American flag in the dining room. The furniture is becoming more and more solid wood, and one of the decorations in this house that I noticed is that in their living room, above the mantel, there was this large painting that I recognized instantly as a Mormon temple. As you will know if you are familiar with my channel, when I do deep dives, I am not just going to recount to you drama that's been regurgitated 100 times. I'm going to do my own intense research, and I'm going to paint you a picture of someone's life. You see, one of the most essential living room decorations is a picture of a Mormon temple. Bonus points if it's the one you are married in. And in this case, I think it actually might be. And to be sure, I actually found the temple that this is a painting of. This, I'm pretty sure, is the Manti Temple in Utah. You can see here, it's of an odd angle, but that's definitely the same building. And the color of the painting makes me think that it's from a painting series the Mormon Church did called Shelter from the Storm, about how Mormon temples were the refuge from the storm of life. So if anyone knows if I'm right or knows where this painting is from exactly, please drop it down in the comments. I live for this kind of sleuthing. So how she got her business started. In January 13th of 2018, Ballerina Farms posted their first merchandise, a sweatshirt that has a ballerina in front of the Utah mountains with a hog. So sometime between 2017 and then, they bought their first 100-acre farm in Utah. Hannah recounts this as a very trying time, saying that they just bought land, not a farm, so they had to build the house and irrigation and the fences and the barns and everything that you need to have a farm. But after much hard work, they bought 4 pigs to get the party started, and they were off. This is when their content starts to be centered around farming and their family learning how to farm. But they were far away from the, dare I say it, traditional farm trad wife aesthetic. They are wearing Wranglers and Carhartt and normal farm work attire. The kids are also wearing normal kids' clothes. Now, unfortunately, on September 14th, Hannah posted that a wildfire took their farm. They had to cut the animals free, they didn't have enough time to evacuate them, and the family also had to evacuate. Interestingly, just 2 days after she posted that, they posted a picture of the family dressed up, saying evacuated and in our Sunday best for church. Which is a bit crazy. I do understand that religion can be helpful in trying times, but you just had to evacuate your farm. You don't know where your animals are, and you're smiling for a photograph because you're a great Mormon family and goes to church at all times. It's a little weird to me. So they end up getting a brand new farm, and this time they found a 328-acre house that used to be a cattle ranch. So it is literally perfect. And they embarked on the Ballerina farm journey that we see today. There's a beautiful meadow in the mountains, a historic house, a beautiful stove that the internet raved over. And a 12K stove is a lot, but if they have the money and this is something that she really wants, why are people saying she shouldn't have a 12K stove? If they are indeed rich. On the topic of the stove, she says in this video that she originally wanted a wood stove, but Daniel talked her out of it, and this was honestly her second choice of cute stoves.
First, I wanted a wood cook stove because I just thought they were so charming and beautiful, and there's a lot of, new ones being made that are really incredible. But Daniel, which I agree now, said that is probably not realistic with all the kids and all the cooking you do. A wood stove is gonna be a lot. And so I found this browsing through the internet, and I was like, wow, it's not a cook stove, but it's still really beautiful and has a lot of the same charm and functionality that a cook stove does. And so once I laid eyes on it, I was like, I have to have it.
As someone who really wants a wood-burning stove, more for an outside grill situation, but that's neither here nor there, I both get it and think it's a huge sign that Hannah actually does like this life. She was pitching for a wood-burning stove, which is so much work and so over-the-top pioneer that I'm sure she actually does like these aesthetics. And these aesthetics are on point. There's a beautiful open floor plan farmhouse with no electronics in sight. Now, it is at this time that I would like to introduce the Cowboy Hat Index. You see, Hannah's page slowly becomes the Mormon trad wife Barbie that we would see today, and I call this the Cowboy Hat Index, as the nicer her husband's cowboy hat and outfit gets, the more prairie the family becomes. I think her transition into this started with her beginning TikTok in 2020. At that time, she started learning how to make sourdough and began to make sourdough recipes, which is really what made the business take off. It was COVID. People were cooped up in their houses all day. And here's Hannah, this attractive 30-year-old blonde woman with 6 children, hundreds of hogs, and a perfect loaf of sourdough coming out of her cast iron oven as children scream in the background. During COVID, everyone was trying to cook more, trying to make sourdough at home, and wanting to be more self-reliant. People were finally getting to reflect on the busy life they had before, and now they are alone in their room. The world's ending, and here's Hannah, who has enough land to always be outside. Her life didn't change almost at all. Her children's lives did not change, and people desired that. She began to grow rapidly, and as she grew, her content became more and more focused on her and her life, continuing to become more aesthetic. She was showing herself milking the cows, cooking delicious meals from scratch. Suddenly, her clothes are getting cuter, her hair is done more, her children are wearing prairie dresses. In 2021, she does something that gained her even more followers, which was competing in the Miss Utah pageant. She's a mom of 6, a farmer, a ballerina, and a current pageant queen. What can't she do? As she grew, eventually gaining 3 million followers on Instagram in 2023, people are becoming more and more enamored with her life. 2 of her videos from this time reached over 100 million views on TikTok, with many, many more amassing over 10 million views. Who is Hannah, this graceful mom who's always smiling, ballet dances in fields while her children run around her, runs a successful multi-million-dollar business with her tall, dark, and handsome cowboy husband? They don't have a TV. The kids are homeschooled. There's no microwave or modern appliances in sight, save for the tractor, and she just keeps having more children. Their births, which are filmed for an aesthetic TikTok video, where she's not screaming or panicking. It's peaceful, with all of her children watching and a camera with a flash pointed from above, not daunting at all, as she labors unmedicated in her rustic bathtub. How does she do it? How is she Supermom? The conclusion we can come to is she is Supermom because she is, now say it with me, Mormon. With or without knowing it, Hannah has become the billboard for the Mormon Church. While a simple scroll on her TikTok would not scream to you to call your local missionaries, it is there. And I honestly think that this kind of marketing is the most effective. I'll give some examples. Oh wow, look what a rustic and beautiful life this woman lives. What's that in the background of her bedroom? The Manti Temple. What is his family scripture study? The Book of Mormon. And then you see the many, many videos where Hannah's wearing a cross. And if you are Christian, you might be thinking, oh, she's Christian just like me, and I want to be like her. So what are her thoughts on our common denominator, religion? She's Mormon. And if you've never been interested in Mormonism before, now you might be, because she has the life you want. If she's able to do all of this and you can't, then the one thing that you might be missing isn't her extreme discipline and capacity for suffering from years and years of ballet. It's not money that she has. It's not even that you don't even see her real life and only want what's on her screen. No, it's not that. It's that you're not Mormon. And then they try out a Mormon church, speak to missionaries, and now they're in hazmat suits getting dunked in water and paying 10% of their money to a $100 billion church that doesn't give it back. I think Hannah, such a devout Mormon, wearing a cross, despite the Mormon Church's previous opinions on the cross, which was this, shows a greater change in the church trying to assimilate into the normal, and that's super air quoted, okay, normal, Christian world. They used to be so gung-ho about it. On Google Maps, they used to show up with the Angel Moroni trumpet instead of crosses. And that's changed. They used to think, we're not those other Christians. We focus on Jesus' life, not his death. But now it is my opinion that they are losing so many people and not gaining enough members, that they are just trying to do away with words like Mormon and present themselves as just the most correct Christian church. Because the Mormon Church, I feel, will truly backpedal and drop anything for money. Now, in 2023, Hannah documented herself winning the Miss American pageant. Important distinction, this is not Miss America, this is Miss American. They are 2 different pageants, apparently. She competed for the pageant 4 months pregnant with her 8th child and won. And while on the podium, she delivered the most Mormon speech possible.
When have you felt the most empowered?
I have felt this feeling 7 times now as I bring these sacred souls to the earth. After I hold that newborn baby in my arms, the feeling of motherhood and bringing them to the earth is the most empowering feeling I have ever felt.
And I want to point out something here that I don't think others would notice. And that it's not just this very traditional Christian woman answer of the most empowered she's ever felt was as a mom. Which, do not get me wrong, I'm sure that that is a very empowering feeling, to give birth successfully, especially as she does it unmedicated. But she mentions that she's bringing souls to the earth, which is a Mormon concept. You see, in the LDS Church, it is taught that Heavenly Father, God for the uninitiated, and Heavenly Mother, who you're not supposed to talk about, but is always there, silently, exist having babies over and over and over, forever and all of eternity. And that these amazing spirit babies are just waiting for someone on earth to get pregnant so they may be sent down to live their life, where their sole mission will be to find the Mormon Church to receive salvation again, to potentially become their own god or god spouse of their own planet, and to forever have spirit babies. And so the cycle goes on.
First of all, as I mentioned before, she is a co-partner with God in bringing his spirit children into the world. What a glorious concept. No greater honor could be given. With this honor comes the tremendous responsibilities of loving and caring for those children, so that they might learn their duty as citizens and what they must do to return to their Heavenly Father.
It's best represented in the quote, "As man now is, God once was, and as God now is, man may become." Super metal quote, by the way. Super metal. One of my favorite Mormon quotes of all time. It's so cool. They really ate with that one. But Mormons feel it is their duty to have as many children as possible, so that the heavenly spirit babies may come down from heaven and be raised in good Mormon families. As she's pregnant with their 8th child, her social media is blowing up. Videos of her milking cows with a baby bump and working out, all while becoming increasingly more successful and a more aesthetic mother. And these videos are going viral, especially once she revealed that she would be competing in the Miss World pageant right around the due date of her 8th child. The home birth of her 8th child has gotten 3.1 million views to date, and the video posted 12 days later of her competing in Miss World in a blue bathing suit and tight-fitting white dress solidified her as the Mormon Barbie final boss. Though she did not win Miss World, the recognition she got from doing that launched her platform even further. As we go into 2024, Hannah has figured out what works. The world does not want videos of cows giving birth. Yes, I saw that. It was... And they don't want the hard work of setting up fences and mucking stalls. The world wants perfect farm life, where there is a mom and a dad in a Western prairie outfit, children dressed like they're straight out of the Dust Bowl, and early morning walks to milk cows where the flowers are always blooming or the snow is falling beautifully on the mountains. And that is what Hannah began pushing out even harder. She's selling everything, from cast iron pots at Ballerina Farms to aprons in every color and style, bread baskets, sourdough, croissants, protein powder, copious amounts of beef products. Literally, whatever your homesteading heart desires, Hannah has got you covered. Now, the internet turns. As Hannah is learning the trick of what works, and that is creating basically a TV show of her curated life, the internet starts looking into her harder. They see her lifestyle, and they do not see a happy wife and mother. They begin to paint a picture instead of an overworked Mormon mom who was forced into this lifestyle by her millionaire hog-fathering husband. On to the post you're probably all waiting for, the grease strip and the egg apron. So, in some time probably around her birthday, so late June to mid-July of 2024, Hannah posts a now deleted video, which I got from a fan account, and it is of Hannah opening a package from Daniel for her birthday.
Okay, that's my birthday present from Daniel. Hoping their tickets to Greece.
Where's it from?
I don't know, the boys took it off.
I took it off. It's from Ukraine.
So, plane tickets?
So the box is not wrapped, which is fine, wrapping's a little bit overrated. And Hannah just keeps asking if there are plane tickets to Greece in the box. It is so clear that she really, really, really wants to go, and for a family that takes multiple large trips a year, even with 8 kids, like to New York City and to France, they clearly have the money for large trips. So this should be no problem. She's going to open the box, and there will be plane tickets to Greece. She knows it.
Ooh, a hat I can wear in Greece.
What's that hat?
It's not. Oh, my egg apron!
Eggs in it. Great, then you can gather eggs.
So cute. It's really cute. It's a cute one.
Yeah, it's the best. You're welcome.
Thanks, honey.
Not for a long time.
And oh, that's not a plane ticket to Greece. That's a crochet apron to hold eggs. So instead of taking your wife, who is the reason you have 8 children and a successful business, to Greece, which is the one thing she wants, Daniel gets her an egg apron that she clearly does not want more than Greece. I feel I've given a lot of grace to this family, as I am more interested in the Mormon and religious side of content, and I put much of my blame for the behavior of the Nealman family on the organization they are in, not the individual family living under those beliefs. But there's no Mormon doctrine that says you can't take your literal textbook perfect wife to Greece for her birthday, and instead must give her an egg apron, and then film it and post it online. You know, I looked on their website, I looked for the scripture, it does not exist. A lot of the hate at the time regarding this video was very intense. The Times UK came out with a magazine article of an interview that Hannah and Daniel had done, which painted them in a scathing light. It painted Hannah as an independent city girl ballerina with big dreams, which, to be fair, she was, spinning in a tutu above all, who was shoved into a jewelry box by a narcissistic, misogynistic husband to perform only when useful. Yeah, it was gnarly. The internet latched on to this portrayal, coinciding at the same time with the rampant popularity of the Labor song by this person. I forgot to look that up, sorry. Hannah was seen as the embodiment of this trend. She's beautiful, young, and already has 8 children on a rural farm and is frequently towing the lines between the traditional views of womanhood as she wears the prairie dresses and stays at home with the children and submits unto her husband as the final decider of family decisions like moving out of New York or starting a hog farm, while also being an athlete of an extremely demanding sport, being an incredibly successful online personality and business owner. Doing both seemed absolutely exhausting. I would like to point out here that often the amount of work that people perceive Hannah doing is a little bit more work than she actually does. It is natural to assume from their content that it really is just Hannah and Daniel and the 8 kids in the middle of nowhere, wrangling hundreds of cattle and homeschooling, and you may wonder, how in the world are they doing that? Well, they aren't doing all of that. According to the Times article, Hannah has said that they have a cleaner, who I'm assuming cleans their house, but that wasn't super elaborated on. Someone who teaches their kids' school curriculum for them for 3 to 5 hours a day, and have someone who babysits for their weekly date nights, although Hannah can always be seen carrying her newborn babies with her on date nights, as I'm assuming they don't bottle feed since I've never seen her children with a bottle, and she carts the newborns with her everywhere for breastfeeding, including pageants. They have 3 full-time employees on the farm, 30 at the warehouse, more than 10 in the office, and a creative director who manages their website. So they are not running this all on their own. But even with all that help, you can imagine that this is still a lot. Many people began to criticize Nealman for portraying an inaccurate portrayal of farm life. Suddenly, she was too prairie, her house too old, her stove too expensive, her kids too happy, too much, too many. There were criticisms that her and Daniel were purchased the farm outright by Daniel's father, just out of thin air, which I really don't think is entirely true. Daniel's father may have helped them. I believe that could be the case, but very, very few things have seemed so extravagant to warrant the farm being fully paid for in full by Daniel's father. That was until I looked at the listings for land in Utah with 300 acres, kinda near Kamass, Utah, which is where they're located. And I found that just 150 acres, half of what they have, and no house on the property, was selling for between $2 and $4 million. The 300-acre house with good views would easily easily be around 7 million. So I think I stand corrected. His dad is probably helping him because going from a tech startup in Utah to 100 acres and then 328 a year later, I just don't believe that that's your own money. So while they are first-generation farmers, they were probably first-generation farmers with a buttload of startup money. Of course, this doesn't mean that they didn't pay for some of the house, or that they don't have loans on the house. I think I heard that they do, cannot confirm. But it's fishy, and it's giving trust fund baby. So I wanted to take a break here and discuss my own thoughts about how people treat Hannah and Daniel's desire to be farmers. Because I am someone who does desire to be a self-sustaining homesteader. I have a genuine life plan to own a substantial amount of land, and I dream of goats, rabbits, and a large garden. And I plan on sustaining that, in part at least, with a social media career of some sort. Whether that be this channel or through making aesthetic content of that lifestyle, I don't know. But I really don't like that people have taken Hannah's family system, her religious beliefs, and her aesthetics to say that young people who want to farm are just cosplaying, or are silly and unrealistic. We should be having a conversation about Mormonism, and how it encourages unhealthy standards and stress for women, and how it encourages traditional thinking. But the United States is in an agricultural crisis. The average age of a farmer is 58, with 1/3 of farmers being over the age of 65, and those 1/3 of farmers own 40% of all farmland in the United States. Due to the fact that being a farmer is one of the hardest jobs to make a living in this day and age, because they cannot compete with large corporations and they're being actively attacked by Monsanto, and most of their children do not want to follow in their footsteps. Without more young people like Hannah and Daniel, hundreds of millions of acres are likely to change hands and become owned by mega agricultural farmers who don't care about the welfare of their animals, who don't care about the longevity of the soil. So in many ways, I am very, very happy that Hannah's content can open more people's eyes to at least the option to have a more sustainable lifestyle, even if they don't go about it with the religion that I like. That is still a choice that I deeply respect, and I think more people should be open to hearing. So, since the great social media storm, Hannah's channel has still continued to grow. If anything, the bad press brought more people to her content and more people to Mormonism. Her videos have only gotten more aesthetic, and the business has only opened more fronts. She now has a physical Ballerina farm store in Utah, which, if I'm ever nearby, I would be interested in checking out. But I would like to take this moment to remind everyone that as Hannah and Daniel are good standing members of the Mormon Church, they are paying 10% of their income before taxes to the Mormon Church directly every single year. This is not optional. This is a requirement in the Mormon Church.
To develop enduring faith and enduring commitment to be a full tithe payer is essential. Tithing will keep your name enrolled among the people of God and protect you in the day of vengeance and burning.
You have to pay in order to keep your Temple Recommend card, which looks a little something like this, and that card allows you to get into the temples for weddings and other things that happen in the holiest place on earth in your religion. Any money that Hannah and Daniel receive, 10% of it goes to the Mormon Church. Whether that's revenue from the sale of meat, her sourdough starter, their physical store, or revenue that comes from their views on TikTok and Instagram, 10% of everything goes to a church that has supported many horrific things in the past, and that I do not trust not to do bad things in the future. Please be careful of your money when it comes to Mormon influencers, because anytime you watch Hannah or get ice cream from her store, or click her affiliate links, that money goes into her pocket, and then just a little goes into the pockets of the LDS Church to hoard with their 100 billion other dollars that sit in stock accounts. Hannah Nealman was a skilled professional athlete, but from birth, she was told that the best thing she could ever do was to be a wife and a mother. She left so many things behind in New York, and wanted to keep doing her passion and craft, even if that meant in jeans and a field with cows. Hannah has said that she truly believes that her business and her life is fulfilling the plans that God had for her. Hannah is the quintessential Mormon wife, and not in the way she thinks. You see, Hannah refuses to say that she has any liking to the tradwife movement, as she believes that her life is untraditional, most likely referring to how in the media she is and how much work she does. But I think she is understanding how being a tradwife, especially in Mormonism, has never meant that they did not work hard. It is rare to find a woman in Mormonism who does not spend hours trying to keep her youth, as she has been told that she must make herself pretty for her husband, and they had to keep up appearances of being a stay-at-home wife while also working all-consuming side hustles to pay the bills. They have to take care of 8 children to the highest LDS standards of raising kids. And here comes Hannah, the spitting image of all the Mormon women before her, speaking proudly on her faith on stages and saying that it is the reason that she can do this all at once. Not that it is the reason she is doing all of this at once. She is the Mormon fairy princess ballerina Barbie in the box created for her by 200 years of old men. This does not mean that Hannah, Daniel, and their children are not happy, or are not a family full of love. This does mean that they are good people, giving their all to a church who does not give much more back than arbitrary rules, lies, and half-truths. Hannah and Daniel deserve a church that is honest, a church that does not require a 10% check, a church that values people over profits. Alrighty, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Please leave any future video ideas, suggestions, or general questions in the comments below. I absolutely love interacting with you all. I have had some people ask me for a Patreon, which I do not have at this time, but I did make a Buy Me a Coffee in case you want to support my channel directly, and it would mean the world to me. I will link it below. I'm making a link tree, yay. And thank you so much for watching.